Hello and welcome to Captain Tyler's Lawn. Today's program is Photo Finish, where I'll be talking about the European Grand Prix, the two road course races for the NASCAR series, as well as the Rolex Sports Car Series races this weekend. I know it's a little weird to start an analysis or a breakdown of the races in the middle of the season, but I feel that the Formula One season is so strong, as well as the Rolex being very competitive this year, that they need to be talked about. And I just started my blog. So, being that I don't know who the people are going to be listening to this, I'm going to try and say the full names of the drivers, who they drive for, try and give you a little more details than if we were already in the mid-season and I had been doing this. Trying to have pictures up with who I'm talking about in the beginning and throughout it as well. I hope that I don't lose too many of you guys in what I'm talking about. I'm going to try and keep it as entry level as I can with it right now. Maybe getting more technical if people ask. I'm going to have a little bit of the season recap of what's happened in each series before I talk about this weekend's race. I'll also have links to the official websites of each series. Now it's time to get you up to speed. I'm going to start off by talking about Formula One, which I believe has been the most competitive racing series right now, with 7 different winners in 7 different races. Jenson Button winning for Mercedes McLaren in the first race in Australia. Then after that was Fernando Alonso winning in a wet race in Malaysia. Then it was Nico Rosberg winning his first Grand Prix for the Mercedes factory team and their first win since the 50s. They pulled out due to the tragedy at Le Mans, but we're not going to talk about that right now. After that, it was Sebastian Vettel getting the first win for Red Bull in Bahrain. Then after that, they came to Spain, where Pastor Maldonado came from nowhere and won his first Grand Prix, and the first for the Williams team in a long time. They had fallen on hard times. After Pastor Maldonado, we went to Monaco, which is the Gym Grand Prix, wherever all the celebrities are, and it's beautiful. People who don't follow racing too well at least know that Monaco Grand Prix, which was won by Mark Webber, snapping the streak of different constructors winning, with being Sebastian Vettel's teammate at Red Bull Racing. And then after Monaco, we headed off to Canada, where Lewis Hamilton got his first win of the season, second win for McLaren. And it was interesting because it was 5 years to the day after his first win for the team and in Formula One. He was really emotional about it. With that win, it put him in the lead of the points championship for drivers. He was ahead of Alonso by 2 and Vettel by 3. Those drivers have proven to be the guys to beat this year. And then now we have the European Grand Prix that was held this weekend in Valencia, Spain. The European Grand Prix is the title that's been placed to the Grand Prix that's held in a country that already has a Grand Prix, such as the Spanish Grand Prix, and then there's the European Grand Prix. They've done this in Germany, Portugal, Spain before now. Normally it follows around whatever's the most popular driver. Like when Michael Schumacher was winning a lot, there was 2 Grand Prix in Germany. So, yeah. This Grand Prix I thought was really good. I didn't have much of an expectation for it because it being a street course. Street courses normally don't have a lot of passing. A lot of people compare them to like a freight train or something because the cars run in single packs. That was not the case today. There was a lot of overtaking and a lot of cars coming from the back to the front. Qualifying to set the starting grid positions took place on Saturday, with Sebastian Vettel getting pole, Lewis Hamilton second, Pastor Maldonado in third, Romain Grosjean for Team Lotus was fourth, Kimi Raikkonen, his teammate, was fifth, Nico Rosberg, the winner of China, was sixth, Kumi Kobayashi, driver for Sauber, was seventh, Nico Hulkenberg for Force India with their best qualifying of the year in eighth, Jenson Button ninth, and then Paul di Resta rounding out the top 10. Other notables were Fernando Alonso for Ferrari in 11th, Michael Schumacher for Mercedes in 12th, and unfortunate for Mark Webber, he had car issues and he was only able to qualify 19th out of the 24 cars. Timo Glock did not start because of stomach ailment. They believe that he has an intestinal infection. So at the start, we only had 23 cars. It was a good start for Vettel as usual. He opened up a good gap after a couple laps and was able to pull away from Lewis Hamilton, who was in second. He got challenged hard by Romain Grosjean, Kimi Raikkonen, and Maldonado. Grosjean coming into third. Alonso made a great start, coming up from 11th up to 6th. And then the tires started to fall off and lap times dropped. Valencia is known to be hard on tires, and it wasn't helped today by its high temperatures, getting close to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, if not higher. So tire wear was pretty strong. Funny thing with the pit stops today is the McLaren Mercedes team. They've had trouble all year, up and down. Like, they've been really good, really bad. Well, today was no different. In their first stop, they posted one of the fastest pit stops that I've seen this year at 2.9 seconds to change 4 tires. There's no refueling in Formula 1 this year. So that really helped out. And then around lap 26, there was a safety car for debris. Pieces of front wings were on the track. A few cars had run into each other, and they needed to clean up the mess. Unfortunately for Jean-Eric Vergne of Scuderia Toro Rosso, which is the Red Bull Junior team, quote unquote, his day was finished when he got together with another car, suspension damage, and he had to pull off. During the safety car, the leaders, except for Sebastian Vettel, came into the pits, and this is where Mercedes McLaren showed their bad pit stops that they've been doing this year, where when Lewis Hamilton came in, his front jack that lifted up the front of the car broke, and while the team was trying to change the tires, it took them longer to get the tires back on and taken care of, so he dropped from second at the time to fourth. Romain Grosjean and Fernando Alonso passing him in pits. A few laps later, the safety car pulled into the pits and they were back to racing. Vettel pulled out a little lead over Romain Grosjean and Fernando Alonso, which those two drivers battled pretty strongly and then Alonso passed Grosjean. On the lap that they got back to racing after the safety car, though, Sebastian Vettel suddenly stopped. His alternator failed and he lost drive. So he was out of the race after leading the first 34 laps, putting now Fernando Alonso, Romain Grosjean, and Lewis Hamilton 1, 2, 3. A few laps after Vettel's retirement, sadly Romain Grosjean also retired with alternator issues. The Lotus and the Red Bull teams both have Renault engines, so it was the same failure. Alonso pulled out a pretty good lead over Lewis Hamilton and the now third place driver of Kimi Raikkonen. They stayed that way for a while, and then with about 12 laps to go, something interesting happened. Michael Schumacher and Mark Webber, who had been in about the middle of the pack all day, decided to come in for tires late in the race. Like I said, lap 12. And this proved to be a really smart move for them. They had new tires, they didn't have as much weight, so they weren't wearing the tires down as badly. This gave them a great advantage coming into the end of the race because they were able to pass a lot of cars and move up the field rather quickly, getting up to 5th and 6th. At that time, it was Fernando Alonso in first, Lewis Hamilton in third, Kimi Räikkönen in fourth, and Pastor Maldonado in fourth, ahead of them. Then, with about 3 or 4 laps to go, Lewis Hamilton's tires had degraded too badly, and he couldn't keep up, and he was passed by Kimi Räikkönen. On the final lap, Lewis Hamilton's tires were just done, and he did his best to block Pastor Maldonado from passing him. But going into the hairpin turn at Valencia, they came together, and Lewis Hamilton's race was done. He dropped from third all the way to, I believe it was 12th, 14th. He dropped out of the points. With Formula One, only the top 10 score points. This was not good for him in the points. And that put Michael Schumacher in third. Coming across the line, he didn't realize he was even on the podium. He had a hard time seeing his pit board, which displayed his pit position. He had been watching Mark Webber's, and he knew he was a position ahead of him, so coming across the line, it said Mark Webber fourth, and he was like, wait a second, that means I'm in third. Awesome! So Fernando Alonso won his home Grand Prix and was very emotional about it, breaking down in tears on the podium. It was nice to see, a really good reaction from the drivers, because they normally don't show that much emotion. They show a little, but nothing of like tears, except for in a few occasions. Kimi Räikkönen, better known as the Iceman, was still his normal, I didn't win, I'm disappointed, and said so in the press conference. And it was nice to see Schumacher back on the podium the first time since he had returned from his retirement of 3 years ago. So it was a good day for everybody except for Vettel and, of course, Lewis Hamilton. With their finishes outside the points, it then gave the lead to Fernando Alonso, who is now 11 points ahead of Mark Webber, who's in second, then followed by Lewis Hamilton in third. Last thing I want to talk about with the Grand Prix today was there were some penalties handed out because of the contact and the incidences. The one that surprised me the most was the one between Pastor Maldonado and Lewis Hamilton. The commentators, as well as the race, as well as I, felt that Hamilton blocked heavily and caused the contact between him and Pastor Maldonado. But the stewards, who are the people who hand out the penalties, and really they can say whatever they want with what the penalty is going to be, said that it was Maldonado who entered was forced off the track and then did not enter back safely, and will be suffering a 10-spot grid penalty for the next race, which is in Silverstone, the British Grand Prix. Talk to you about that in 2 weeks. Now that I've spent about 13 minutes talking about Formula One, it's time to talk about the Rolex Sports Car Series, which is the Grand Am Racing Series. What's interesting about them is it's 2 races going on at the same time. They have what is called the Daytona prototypes, which are the faster cars. They're built specially for racing. And then there's the GT class, which are street cars which have been tuned and replaced with like fiberglass and a roll cage, and they're racing on the track at the same time. I really like the GT classes because I like Mazdas, and there's a Mazda RX-8 car in there, doing pretty well this year actually. The Daytona prototypes are fun, right? They've just redid their chassis and their bodies for this year with newer looking ones, as well as a Corvette body, which has done pretty well this year. What's cool about the Rolex Sports Car Series is their races are based off of time as opposed to laps. So like in Formula One today, they did 57 laps around Valencia. Yesterday, they were at Road America in Wisconsin, 7-mile track. It's beautiful out there and pretty challenging, really fast too. But they raced around it for 2 hours. So it's whoever can complete the most laps in that time period. With that, their season has been pretty competitive as well, dominated by the Corvettes as of late, but at the beginning of the year it was actually the Ford that won, winning what is their longest race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, which is run on a mixture of the road course and the high bank oval that the NASCAR series run on. Um, the other interesting thing with the Rolex Sports Car Grand Am series is that it's not just one driver. Of course, they won't allow one driver to run for 24 hours in their long races. It's normally done between two drivers with their shorter races, and up to four when they do the Daytona 24 hours. With the 24 hours, there's normally specialty teams as well as like celebrity drivers, like some of the NASCAR guys run it, running in like Chip Ganassi's team. And the team that won the 24 hours actually had a NASCAR driver in AJ Allmendinger, who drives for Penske in the 22 Dodge. The GT was won by Porsche. I'm not very good with names, so you'll have to forgive me on that. It was the Porsche 44 car, and the winner of Daytona was the Ford Riley Spirit of Daytona number 60 car. After they went to Daytona, they went to Barber Motorsport Park in Alabama, which is actually a motorcycle track that both the IRL and the Rolex series run on. This one was also won by the Spirit of Daytona team in the number 90 car for Daytona prototype class, and in the GT class it was won by the Speed Source Mazda, which made me a very happy fan. The racing there was pretty good, really tight. A couple cars actually got into each other. Like, unfortunately, my memory of these races isn't as detailed. After that, they traveled to Homestead, which was a rainout. I remember trying to watch that race, and they only ran for like 45 minutes under green. It was called because of the weather, and the race was, the winner of the Daytona class was the SunTrust Corvette team in driver number 10, and the GT class winner was the 69 Ferrari team, Ferrari's first win of the season. After that, they headed off to New Jersey in the New Jersey Motorsports Park. I unfortunately missed that race, but I can tell you that it was, once again, the SunTrust team of the Daytona prototypes in the number 10 car winning, and then it was also the GT number 60 Ferrari team winning. After New Jersey, they traveled off to Detroit, Michigan for the Detroit Grand Prix. That race was interesting, lots of contact. As a matter of fact, two of the leaders crashed out for different instances. The number 10 car of the SunTrust car was winning and then wrecked, leaving the pit lane. And then the number 90 car from the Spirit of Daytona, Daytona Prototypes, was leading, and then they crashed into a GT car. So the winner of the Daytona Prototypes was the Action Express team of number 9. Their first win for the season. They were really excited about that. GT was won by the 88 Camaro for their first win, which was really nice to win in Detroit, being the American Motor Company. After that, they went to Mid-Ohio. Once again, lots of action, leaders wrecking each other out of the way. And this time it was won by the Spirit of Daytona. They were extending their point lead. But close behind them was Chip Ganassi and his BMW Riley team. Scott Pruitt, who has been dominating in the series, won almost every race 2 years ago. Grand Am even put out a bounty on him, which, funny enough, after they put out the bounty to beat them, they were quickly beaten. GT winner was the BMW M3 team of the Turner Motorsports. They had been close to winning a couple times this year, but had a mechanical issue, and then finally pulled it out in Ohio. After Ohio, we did go to Road America, which was this Saturday's race. Once again, leaders wrecked out. Under caution again, the number 10 car of the SunTrust team was leading. They had a full course caution for a nasty incident, and
he spun and hit the wall and damaged his suspension. The other car that in the Daytona prototypes that hasn't won but should be mentioned is the '99 Dragon Racing Team. What's interesting with them is they have Dan Gurney's grandson, Alex Gurney, on them, and they've just been plagued with problems. And in today's race, or I'm sorry, yesterday's race, they had a suspension failure and had to drop out. In the GT, it was dominated by the '69 Ferrari, who led most of the race. My Speed Source Mazda team finished third in GT, which made me happy, and the Turner Motorsports team was second. The racing was good. Like I said, the track was really fast, wide open. They could beat and bang, but not too hard. They're delicate machines. And the winner in the Daytona Prototype Series was the number one car, driven by Scott Pruitt and the Chip Ganassi team. Their first win in 9 races, which is one of their longest streaks without a win. Um, what happened? And then what's interesting is the race that happened right after the Rolex race was the NASCAR Nationwide race at the same track, Road America. It also was a pretty good race, won by Nelson Piquet Jr., who was a former Formula One driver. His father won 3 championships during the '80s. Um, he didn't do too well in F1, then came over to America and has been running in the nation in the Camping World Truck Series. Um, Almost won a race this year and there, but failed to do so due to bad luck on the pits. But in Saturday's race, he did really well. Played his strategy well, got a good lead, and then pretty much coasted trying to save fuel. The couple interesting things that happened. One of the drivers in the 31 car, his name slips me unfortunately. While driving, he dropped his water bottle and he got stuck underneath his pedal. So when they had a full course caution, he came into the pits, and one of the crew members dove into the window and helped him fish it out. It was a funny thing to see, um, but they were able to get it out, and he ended up finishing like 12th, I think. Not Can't remember exactly. The other big thing that happened was with old Danica Patrick. She was running one of her best races since switching over from the IRL series to the NASCAR series, running fourth on the final lap going into turn 5. Her and Jacques Villeneuve, the 1997 Formula One champion, um, were, bat- were battling for fourth position, and they made contact, and Danica Patrick went off into the gravel trap. She was not happy. She never really is when things don't go her way. So it was funny to hear her rant about how Villeneuve treble follows him, but it was nice to see Villeneuve still being Villeneuve and being daring. He still fourth. Danica finished farther back. The points leader of the Nationwide series is Elliott Sadler, who's got a slim lead over Austin Dillon of just 11 points. Third is Ricky Stenhouse Jr., fourth is Sam Hornish Jr., and fifth is Cole Witt. Elliott Sadler used to run in the Sprint Cup Series, which is the grade above, but decided to come back to the Nationwide Series after not doing really well and just not having much fun. He says he's a whole lot happier and is having a lot more fun doing it, and I'm glad to hear that. He's a funny guy. He's a good old boy, as they say. The nationwide races have been pretty action packed. There's been a lot of them because it's the NASCAR series, so they tend to race every week as opposed to Formula One and Rolex, which run about every 2 weeks to every 3 weeks. Because there's been so many races, I don't really have the time to give you the rundown like I did of the other series. Plus, I missed a lot of them with working, and they run on Saturdays. Either way, they're still fun. They're not as long as the NASCAR races, which run over 4 hours. These are about 2 and 2.5 hours, which is not bad. Um, then there's the NASCAR series, which ran today, on Sunday today, at Sonoma in California, in wine country. It was a pretty good race. Once again, it was nice to watch everyone doing a road course as opposed to the ovals just doing left turns. Those can be fun, but it's nice to change it up a bit. It was won by Clint Boyer today over Tony Stewart. He was getting his first win for his new team, Michael Waltrip Racing, which has done really good, surprisingly. Didn't really expect much from them coming into the season. And then Clint Boyer, Mark Martin, and Martin Truex Jr., their drivers, have just been doing really good, and they got their first win, which was nice. Um, Clint Boyer dominated for the good part of the race, led most of what I got to see today. I didn't get to watch the full race, unfortunately. Got pretty busy towards the end of the day. Um, there was one nasty accident. The 10 car, which was a road course, what they call the road course ringer, got knocked out of the way by another road course ringer. I forget their names, unfortunately, but both the driver was okay. Um, after with the NASCAR series long season, they've only got 10 more races until what they get to what they call the chase, which is kind of their playoffs. The last 10 races, the top 12 drivers are battling out for the championship. Right now, they're just battling for position in the top 12. Um, some of the best races of the season was the Daytona 500, which got postponed for the first time this year because of rain. This is the first time it's ever happened. Um, it was pretty cool because I work at a Best Buy and the Best Buy car won, so I got to watch the replay of the race at work a lot, which made a racing fan pretty happy. Um, Other than that, there's some of the short track races have been pretty good, and they're just long and it's hard to keep up because I've kind of lost interest in the drivers, unfortunately. Um, most of who I knew growing up don't race anymore, and most of the people who do are kind of boring or are jerks. Like Kurt Busch, who got suspended for a race for calling media things that I'm not going to say on my blog. Well, that concludes my racing recap and breakdown. Hope it's not too long, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry if I made any errors. I'll try to post like text about what I catch. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I can do to make it better. And of course, next week won't be an F1 race for Grand Am, so probably just talk about what happened in NASCAR, in IRL, and the news of the other races. Until then, Captain Tyler out.